Yeah. Me and Jesus, we're good friends. And like any relationship, it's still evolving. There's some moments, some days where you're kind of like, dude, where you at? It's kind of like when it's like you're trying to run away from something and it keeps nagging at you, and you turn left, it's still there. You turn right, it's still there. You try to go to sleep, it's still there. Okay, dude, you had your time to like dink around in the playground or in the field.
Mhm.
Now I need you to take this more seriously because this is what I have for you.
Promoting connectivity to our Creator. Seen, heard, imagined.
I'm Michelle Francine. Welcome to the spiritual podcast series called Seen, Heard, Imagined. Its roots are grounded in the sacred text found in 1 Corinthians chapter 2, verse 9. Although no human being can fathom what God has in store for those who love him, in this series we explore what the average everyday person has seen, heard, or imagined that has strengthened their faith in our Creator. So, welcome to episode 2 of this spiritual podcast series, Seen, Heard, Imagined. Now, in this episode, I wanted to address the question, how does God use our weaknesses to guide us in life? And to help me address this question, I asked Robert Kennedy III to join the show. Hey, Robert. So, I recently got to know you as a teacher and an influencer at the Amplify Voice and Video Influence Summit. And so, to me, it was a conference all about encouraging people to utilize their voice and video media to really create positive content in the world, create a positive influence while also making a living. Would you agree with that synopsis?
I would, but can I ask you to do me a favor?
Sure.
So I'm a professional speaker, and we like to make an entrance real quick. So can I make an entrance?
Go
All
ahead.
right.
You
So
got
I
the
just I
floor.
just I just need to just say, ladies and gentlemen, introducing Robert Kennedy the third.
Ah, clap, clap, clap.
Yep.
Should I insert some clap sound effects?
Nope, you
No,
don't have to. I
we'll
got
leave
you. I got you for the claps.
that. Okay.
Let me know when you're ready.
All right. Okay. Well, I did want to go into your actual introduction, though. I was gonna kind of have a kind of
And we
close
we
it
can
in.
do that, but this is different. This is for the show. This is for the show. You ready? Go ahead. Whenever you're ready.
Okay. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, Robert Kennedy III. Welcome to the show. Oh, there it is.
That's what I'm talking about. Hold on, I gotta get my dude.
I should have known. I
We
should have known
gonna
this
talk
was a
about
setup.
Jesus, so we need a lamb.
We need a lamb. The sacrificial lamb. Oh, why is the lamb black? Why is the lamb black? But okay,
Well,
that's
listen. The lamb probably should be black.
yeah, debatable. It's very
That's
debatable, but
yeah.
I would
That's my
probably agree with
my
you.
double entendre.
Now, Robert, the real introduction to you. Now, you
Yes,
want to live in a world where people are no longer afraid to confidently tell their stories
that's right.
and also eat Reese's peanut butter cups whenever they want without shame, without repercussion. That's
Sounds like
important.
heaven to me.
That's a big mission.
Yeah.
Now, your work as a keynote speaker and trainer happens to be in the areas of leadership and business communication, and video has led you to work with organizations like AARP, T-Mobile, Barnes& and Noble, so many others.
Mhm.
Now, you're heavily involved in your community, leading the parent association for your children in high school. You're coaching high school baseball and running the now help me now, Critchlow and Kennedy
Critchlow Kennedy Foundation.
Critchlow Kennedy Foundation with your lovely wife. So, again, I got to give you a warm welcome to you, the professional member of the National Speakers Association and host of Speakernomics podcast, my new friend, Robert Kennedy III.
Let's
Welcome,
go.
welcome.
Thank you. So glad to be here.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you're here as well. All right. So, to get started, I wanted to talk about your spirituality as a whole. Like, how would you describe your spiritual practices to our audience?
Wow. I would say evolving still. I mean, I would say that Uh, I was gonna say I would say that Jesus Christ is my homie, but
What's wrong with that?
yeah, me and Jesus, we're good friends, and like any relationship, it's still evolving. There's some moments, some days where you're kind of like, dude, where you at? But then there's some days where you're like, ah, yeah, high five, yeah, we got it together today.
Yeah.
But it's evolving. I think part of that is my spiritual upbringing. I'm a PK. I'm a preacher's kid.
Yeah.
So I spent a lot of time in church, and I also spent a lot of time, at home, family worships, etc., devotions, hearing a lot of things around the house that were just said to us, but didn't
Mhm.
take on full meaning until I was a full grown adult. So,
Yeah.
and then of course we had like a pandemic, which then caused us to reevaluate how we worshiped and how we did church. And instead of running 90 miles a road down an hour down the road to get to church, we're kind of like, okay, yep, we can do this, or and we can rest a little bit, so
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, wonderful. Well,
yeah.
good. Well, while looking back over your life, um, how do you feel that God has guided you in general?
Wow. So you just literally said the words of a song. As I look back over my life. Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't sing. You do, please. I know you know how to sing. You grew up in the choir, didn't you?
I grew up in. I've led choirs. I've led.
Led
I started
them.
and led groups. I've had groups that have recorded, and so I've played and sung for a while. I've been a worship leader at my church. So yeah, I've been in the music space of worship for quite some time. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, in those times being raised in the church up until now, how has he guided you?
Wow. So I think like everybody, there are moments where you aren't certain that you're being guided, and then you look back
Mhm.
and realize that you were,
Absolutely. I would
right?
agree.
And so I
Mhm.
would say that my life has been a series of decisions, some that seem like, oh my gosh, that was terrible. Why did I do that? But then realizing that the decisions that I make now, or the impact that I'm able to make now on people, comes as a result of being able to navigate those decisions, or being in those places where you then had to lean on God in a very deliberate way, so that you can now say, ah, that's what you were trying to teach me during
Mhm.
that season. So I
Mhm.
mean, that's a really big question. I mean, he's guided me in a lot of different spaces. I would say my whole life, even when I was running the other way, and not trying to be guided, that it was still ultimately guidance.
Isn't that funny? He has a way of using rebellion
Yep.
as well to help teach some lessons. I
Yep.
think that rebellion is definitely a weakness of humanity.
Hmm.
Um, and in spite of that, he'll take a bad thing and make it good. Yeah, that's really good. Yeah. Now, while looking back, you have also admitted that God has used your stubbornness and some of the messes you've gotten to help and guide you in your life. Can you share a couple of examples of how he's done that?
Yeah. So I think one is more specifically career based. So when I came out of college, I was a working in the mental health field, and I did that for a few years, and then I became a teacher. Actually, before that, I jumped in. I was doing some work as a radio news anchor, and then I became a teacher after that. So I was teaching for about 8 years, 10 years at the time, and we moved from the state of Massachusetts to the state of Maryland. 10 days after I got to Maryland, I was teaching online and I lost my job.
Oh my.
So I had three kids under the age of five. at the time. New state, 500 miles away from where we were, three kids, um, and the salary that we thought we were going to have collectively is now split in just about half. Actually, no, not split in half. Here's how God works. Um, the We moved, and my wife got a new job here in Maryland. The amount that we lost with me losing my salary was just about the amount that her salary was raised when we moved from Massachusetts to Maryland. So
Okay.
so
Yeah.
we got here thinking we were going to have more, but we ended up being kind of right where we were,
Right.
right?
Yes.
So
Mhm.
um I'm doing all the things when you lose a job. You going on Monster, Indeed, Simply Hired, all the sites trying to find jobs, and I wasn't getting hired. I wasn't getting a job.
Mhm.
So I decided I was going to try to figure out how to do some other stuff. I got to contribute to my household, right? I'm a
Mhm.
father. I'm the dude.
Mhm.
I'm the protector.
Mhm.
I gotta do what I need to do.
Yeah.
And so I started leaning on my master's degree in the instructional design, instructional technology, and building courses for a couple of universities. And after a couple of times, I decided I was going to make a business out of it. And so
Mm.
I started a business. And in that business, I started to get a few opportunities, try to scale really quickly. And in that scaling, not knowing so much about business, some things blew up and the business imploded, exploded, some type of ploded, just it didn't work. Right.
Uh-huh.
Right. Didn't work out. So now I owe money. I'm at the place where I'm being sued. And so just, all this stuff is happening at this time. We got this, we're in this big house, an acre of land, and all this stuff is happening. And on the outside, to everybody else, it looks like we're doing okay.
Right.
It looks like we're doing fabulous.
Mhm.
Um, but we're in a place where my business is failed. My wife is going through a situation where her mom is dealing with cancer at the time.
Mhm.
Um, I'm not doing well with this, and I'm not really bringing the money that I need to bring into the house. And so
Mhm.
she's not really happy because, she needs stability and security, and
Mhm.
I'm not doing that at, at this time. And so one day, I'm trying to make this business work, trying to make this business work, trying to make this business work. She says to me, "Babe, you're a teacher. I just don't understand. Why don't you just go back and teach?"
Hmm.
And for a moment, I considered it.
Mhm.
And then I was like, no, right? And we were like, okay, well, what you gonna do? And I was like, I don't know. I need to figure it out. And so I have family members, I got church members, I got friends, I got people. They're like, dude, what's going on? What's going on? What's going on?
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to do, but somehow, so for some reason, I know that I need to stick my head down, put my nose to the grindstone, and figure it out. And it's not like a 3-month process. It takes years. It takes years. But I look back and I look at how God kind of guided and stuck with us through that moment, and I
Mhm.
think about it like, man, if I decided that I was going to say, you know what, I'm just going to go back to what I know. I'm just
Mhm.
going to go back to teaching. Yeah, certain things would have happened. Yeah, we would have brought a little bit of my money into the household at the time. But God had told me years before that I was not supposed to be working for nobody. He had told me that I was, I needed to depend on him, that I needed
Yeah.
to trust him, because here's what happened. Every time I decided I was going to go back and get a full time gig. So, like during that time when our business was struggling, I said, let me go back and get a full time gig. I got a gig working for a company that was a government contractor. After 10 months, the company loses the RFP, loses this government contract, has to lay everybody off.
My
All
goodness.
right. I go back to myself, go back to my business, trying to work that out. It's not working. I say, okay, let me try another gig. I get this other gig where I'm supposed to help companies develop or source training operatives, getting a salary. After 10
Mhm.
months, that company loses a $10 million contract, has to lay off all of the people that are in my position. I've,
This is a bad string of luck.
yeah, yeah. Well, no,
Seemingly, seemingly.
yeah. So at that point, after that time, I'm kind of like, and then if I consider the time where I got laid off when I came here, when I came
Mhm,
to Maryland, 10 days
mhm.
after. So I count that as time number one. I
Okay.
count the second time with the government contract as time number two. I count the third time as when they lost a $10 million contract as time number three. Because prior to that, God had told me I was working as a teacher and I had started two businesses, right? But I had the safety net of teaching. So
Yeah.
I didn't push the businesses in the way that I needed to push it, to grow it, because I had the safety net. So now
Mhm.
we move, this carpet is ripped out from under me. And God is like, dude, there's a reason why you put out all those job applications and you didn't get a response. There's a reason you didn't get not one interview. It's not like you got interviews and got turned out. You got no interviews. There's a reason for that. And it's that I want you to trust me. And I'd heard that. I heard God say that to me clearly, but I was kind of like, nope. The way that I know how to do it is go back and get a job. And God's like, dude, nope. Okay, cool. I'm gonna let you do what you need to do for 10 months. I'm gonna let you get your wits about you and and be okay for food, but we're gonna go back out there because that's not how I want you to build.
Yeah.
That's not what our relationship is.
Mhm. Yeah.
so
Wow.
so here we are. Started my this version of the business in 2018. It's 2025. So
Uh-huh.
essentially, outside of those 2 10-month stints, I've been an entrepreneur 100% full time since 2009.
Wow. And through the pandemic as well.
Yep,
Yeah. You've
yep,
been held up. That's
yep.
wonderful. You mentioned, his voice. This might be a little bit of a tangent, but
Mhm.
I'm curious as to how his voice comes across to people. How did he happen to come across to you when he told you, "I don't intend for you to work for anyone"?
It is a deep impression.
I like that.
Yeah, it's a deep impression. It's kinda like when it's like you're trying to run away from something and it keeps nagging at you, and you turn left, it's still there. You turn right, it's still there. You try to go to sleep, it's still there. And, sometimes people who you did not even know or have conversations with will say certain things to you to confirm that nagging,
Right. Absolutely.
right? And so, there have been times where I have heard God's voice verbally, like audibly to me. Um, and I believe those were in moments where he knew that I needed to hear it. Otherwise, I was gonna go down the wrong road and try to figure it out on my own. He knew that I needed a momentary affirmation or
Mhm.
reconfirmation that, dude, I hear you.
Yeah.
I'm with you. And even when it seems like I'm silent, I'm still right here. Right,
Yeah.
and so
Yeah.
I needed those moments. So when these other moments come about, and I'm getting the feeling, I'm getting the, I'm reading the word, and the word is confirming that I mean, there was a devotion that I was reading. I use version as my devotional app
Okay.
that I
Yeah.
read. Listen, every devotion that I read for there was a period of about 6 or 7 weeks where every devotion had Jeremiah 29:11 in it.
Mhm.
For I know the plans I have for you, plans to prosper you, not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future. I'm
Future.
like, why is
Mhm.
it every time I open up something, that verse is there? That specific verse is there. I mean, and it's like God saying, dude, I mean, I've got this planned for you. I mean, you're trying to go back to what you air quotes are comfortable with or knew, where you think you're the expert, where you think you've got it figured out, where you've got the educational backing.
Mhm. Mhm.
But yeah, that I allowed you to go down that educational path. I showed you that educational path because it was a building block for what I want you to do.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, that's God and how God speaks with me.
I like that a lot. I like that a lot. Looking back on that time when you were trying to figure it out, how do
Mhm.
I bring income in? How do I support my family?
Mhm.
Um, you mentioned that you never got one interview.
Right.
Never got one.
Mhm.
What is it that God was literally trying to tell you in that moment? Because I think a lot of viewers come up against um, consistent rejection
Yeah.
and consistent doors in their faces, a string of that bad luck. Now, in hindsight, what is it that he was trying to say to you clearly? If you could hear him clearly in the moment of you trying, what was he trying to say?
Trust me. Those 2 words. Just trust me. So, um, again, while I was teaching, I had 2 businesses. And so I knew without a shadow of a doubt that I was gonna start a 3rd business at some point, right? But my way, or what I knew about business up to that point, was I've got the W-2, I've got the safety net.
Yeah.
That's how I so and part of what happens is because I had the safety net, um, there were some things that I did not do, right?
Mhm.
There were there was a level of energy that I didn't utilize. I didn't utilize
Mm.
other people. I didn't make certain phone calls,
Yeah.
right? But now, when I've got to do it on my own, or when I've got to do it without the safety net, I've gotta push differently. I've got to get past myself. I've got to be more vulnerable. I've got to be able to say, I've got to act with a different level of desperation.
Mm. Mhm.
Right? Because now it's, if I didn't get a gig, or if I didn't get a contract, or if I didn't get something, the check is coming into the bank account this Friday. The rest of that is in some ways, although I'm building a business, it's kind of play money a little bit. It's side hustle money. But now it's not. God was saying to me, "Okay, dude, playtime is over. Okay, dude, you had your time to, like, dink around in the playground or in the field.
Mhm.
Now I need you to take this more seriously, because this is what I have for you." Right? God knows my attention span as well. I mean, I was teaching for 7 years in high school, and after a little while, it was kind of like, okay, cool. I'm the type of person that, you don't want me to lead your project for years.
Hmm.
You don't want me to lead it long term. You want me to organize it, to strategize it, to put it together, get the people together to kick it off, and
Mhm.
then push it off. And then I'm kind of like, cool, that's done. Let me go to this
Right.
next thing.
You're an initiator.
I'm a builder. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I get that, and I hear that, and I see that in just what it is that you instructed, last week at the summit as
Mhm.
well.
Yeah.
It's one of your giftings is to initiate, build, move on to support and create a foundation for the next.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
business allows me to do that, because business is not what one of those things where you can just relax, right?
Mhm.
You if you
Especially when
decide,
it's your own business. It's your
yeah,
own
right.
business.
You're like, I'm on coast right now. No, no, if you have a W-2 job, or when I was teaching, there were times where I could be like, "Okay, I'm tired this week. Let me just get some worksheets out and give the kids, and just kinda give them busy work and keep them going." You can kinda coast. Matter of fact, there were teachers that I knew that did that. There was a teacher, and this was one of the reasons I knew I wasn't gonna stay in teaching long term. I went to a teacher's classroom one day, and I walked in, and the lights were dimmed. And this is in the early 2000s, by the way. The lights were dimmed. There were about 17 kids in the classroom. About 14 of them had their heads down on the desk. And in the center of the classroom, I don't know how old you are, Michelle, but I don't know if you remember this.
I'm very young.
Yes.
Very young.
So when I was a kid, there was this thing called a Duquesne projector. And the Duquesne projector was a little projector. It had a film strip, like a roll film strip on it, and there was a cassette in it. And when the cassette played, and after a while it goes beep, and then the slide, or the film strip, moves forward to the next thing, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Right? So
Mhm.
this was used in the 80s when I was in elementary school, and it was old then.
Mhm.
So to see a teacher using this in a classroom in 2002, 2003, I'm kind of like, what on earth? And the teacher had his legs up on the desk. Your husband's laughing, ain't he? The teacher had his legs kicked up on a chair, and he was reading a newspaper while this thing was going on. And I was like, God, am I going to turn into this? No, like I don't want that. I don't want that. So, and God was like, yeah, no, you're not going to turn into this because you're not going to be here, bro.
Mm, okay.
You're not
That's
going to be
right.
here. Right.
That's right.
So
Little do you know. Little
yeah,
do you
so
know.
with a business, I cannot shift down and go into cruise control. There's a
Yeah.
constant, okay, you got to update, you got to up level. Okay, you're at this level. Okay, now you got to grow to that next level. What? Okay, now you got to grow. Now you got to there's constant growth that is necessary for this. So that God, in order to keep me growing, in order to keep me active, in order to keep me trusting,
Mhm.
has placed me in a situation where I have no choice but to continually do that.
Mm, that's right. Yeah. That deeply resonates. I've been in the education field for quite some time now.
Mhm.
Ever since, gosh, 2013, I turned away from being an IT specialist into becoming an educator, more in corporate,
Mhm.
adult learning. And ever since then, there's been this desire as well to want to utilize my voice in some way, whether it's in the form of voice acting or um, meditations or having these interviews and these conversations, which is very new for me. The bandwidth involved
Mhm.
to pour into what feels like a calling and a constant tugging, it's enormous.
Mhm.
And, I love my job. I love my full-time job. I love the organization that I work for. But it really resonated with me when you said that it just takes a different kind of energy, and I would say that you hunger a lot more deeply as
Yeah.
well, especially when it feels like a tug or a calling, or if God has literally whispered that into your intuitive ear.
Mhm.
And it can be a tough decision for a lot of people, you
Yeah.
know. Is it this or both, you
Mhm.
know? Um, and it's fascinating that this calling for you pulled you away from educating our youth. Not
Mhm.
completely though, because what I see is that you are creating this other type of legacy,
Yep.
right? And because I'm just getting to know you, I'm just focused on the voice and video influencing summit, right?
Mhm.
There's a lot of messages for our youth even in that summit.
Yeah.
Getting back to it, because what I derive from it is that, okay, each and every one of these speakers is all about telling us how to connect with people, how to create good content, content that resonates, content that educates
Mhm.
as well. And yeah, sure, we're all wanting to do that to make a living, but I think at the core of each one of those speakers, there's a calling and a desire. God must have had a similar call in their lives, but the way in which he calls can be different depending
Right.
upon his child, right? You
Absolutely.
happen to be a very stubborn child who wants to go and try it on his own. I gotta fill out all these applications,
Yep.
to, bring home the bacon, support my family, and that is a lot of societal pressure that I know men carry.
Yeah.
Um, but at the end of the day, I think that today's youth need to realize that there are multiple ways
Mhm.
to determine your purpose. There are multiple avenues in utilizing your gifts while still making a living.
Yeah.
And what I would hope for you to realize is that we have a Father of the universe who is there to guide us in the midst of our mess and our stubbornness
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you said something that I hear and I want to push back or create a different perspective on it. Um, you talked about the word purpose or finding our purpose. And I, especially when I started to this journey of being on my own 100% as an entrepreneur,
Mhm.
um, I was in a world where there were life coaches and business coaches, and the term find my purpose was huge. And I saw people having conversations about being stuck all the time. I'm stuck. I don't know what my purpose is. I'm stuck.
Yeah.
I don't know how to find my purpose. I've been working in this gig or this job. I don't know how to find my purpose. And what I ended up with was, listen, we all have the same purpose.
Hmm.
We all have the same purpose, and that purpose is to touch or make a difference in the life of at least one person while
Mm.
we're here.
Mhm.
Right? So, I mean, if I think about what Jesus said when he was leaving his disciples before he left this earth again, he said, "Go ye therefore and teach all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, Son." He said, "Teach." That's it. Make a difference, transform,
Mhm.
touch people.
Mm.
That was
Mhm.
it. He did not say, "Okay, listen, your purpose is to be a mechanic. Your purpose is to be a no, go. Your purpose is to be a fisherman. Your everybody's purpose is to touch and teach,
Mm.
right?
Mhm.
How I do that
Mhm.
may vary based on the gift that I have.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
here's how I know that even further. If I've been given a gift and I decide I'm going to use that gift only for edification of myself, if I decide that I'm going to use that gift only for enriching my own coffers or making myself famous or celebrity, then at some point it becomes empty.
Mhm.
And I feel the emptiness. And that's one of the reasons why there are so many celebrities or so many people who seemingly have the best life. They struggle because they have this God sized void in their lives because they've taken the gift that's been given to them and it's been only for self purpose.
Mm.
But if I take that gift and I teach others, if I take that gift and I share with others my experience, if I take that gift and I say, you know what, here's how I navigated this. Here's how you can do this. Let me lift you up. Let me inspire you. Let me help you move to your next place. You might feel a little bit lost right now, but let me elevate you.
Mhm.
Right?
Mhm.
Then now we begin to feel like, oh yeah, I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing here because I'm teaching, I'm transforming, I'm touching with my gift.
Mhm. Mhm. I like that too because I think people put a lot of, pressure on themselves when they think about we'll use Christianity as an example, think about their
Hmm.
Christian walk, it could be, any number of other, religions out there or sects out there. Um, there's this pressure to, well, now that I'm a Christian, I need to become a disciple. Now I'm a disciple. How do I do that? And there's a lot of fear and stress that's triggered by that. And
Yeah.
I personally agree with your perception on what discipleship is.
Hmm.
It is not necessarily, although it's good and important and nothing wrong with it, it is not necessarily going door to door knocking and telling people about Christ.
Right.
It's not necessarily taking a mission trip over to Peru and, helping to build water wells for, a little village out there,
Hmm.
going to a third world country or what have you. I do agree. It's about tapping into the gifts and talents that you have, like you said, to help transform people for the better,
Hmm. Hmm.
with Christian values at the basis of that, whatever that better is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. I like that. Thank you. And Robert, thank you. I enjoyed this conversation. I liked hearing a really solid example
Hmm.
of how God can just use some of our weaknesses, our characteristics, whether it's stubbornness or um, maybe anger, or maybe it's a weakness in regards to not having direction in life.
Mhm.
He can take all of that and transform that to help
Yep.
guide us, and he's always there. So RK3, as you're known as well, I love that. I'm
Yeah.
just gonna call you RK3.
Let's go.
RK3, how can people get to know you better?
They can get to know me better by hanging out with me. How about that? And you can do that by hanging out in one of my communities online. We have the Amplified community as a result of the summit. We also have the Story Speaking and Sales community. Biggest
Mm,
way, easiest way, go to robertkennedy3.me and you should be able to click on my speaker site, my training site, or my informational site there. And you should be able to get in touch with me easily that way.
awesome, thank you. So my previous guest left me with a prayer, a hope, a well wish for the next guest. Do you mind if I share that with you?
Oh, absolutely. I would love it.
So they said, I don't know you, but if you're here, it's because you have God's favor on your life.
Mm,
You being here tells me that you are one of the many apples of his eye. Don't ever doubt your relevance. Don't ever doubt your significance in spaces that he's calling you to.
mhm,
This is your time. So stand in it and walk in it. Being right here is a sign that God's hand is on you. Whatever you need him to do, he's got it.
yeah, I receive it. I receive that.
Good. And before we go, do you have a prayer, a hope, or a wish for the next guest?
My prayer for the next guest is that you will recognize each moment of challenge or each moment of pain as God's building blocks for your victory. You're going to be you're going to encounter obstacles. You're going to encounter resistance.
Mhm.
You're going to encounter trials that are intended to trip you up and cause you to be discouraged. But even though the devil is intending for you to be discouraged, each of those trials, each of those challenges, each of those obstacles is nothing more than a chapter in a story that you were designed to tell. And you're designed to tell that story so that somebody else's life may be saved. I say that in another way. Everything that happens to you in life is your stuff. Your stuff is your story, and your story deserves a stage. Tell it, tell it, tell it, because
Mm,
that's what God designed you to do.
I love that. Thank you, RK. I appreciate it. Thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah. All right, cut. Do you or someone you love need the power of prayer? Is there a challenge you're facing that only our Creator can help you overcome? Then share it with this community by leaving a comment below this video or using our contact form on the Seen, Heard, Imagined website to share it privately. I'd love to pray for you, have others encourage you, or even send you a personalized prayer to address your unique situation. Thanks for watching and listening.